What's happening, everyone? Welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest channel and podcast. If you have not subscribed yet, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you are listening to this on YouTube, just go ahead and hit that like button because I like it that you are here. And let's just go ahead and get into this conversation/reality chat. Married to Medicine, the season finale aired last night, and I honestly fell asleep on it, so I had to watch the remainder of it when I waked up again during the middle of the night just to see the final portion of it. And I just want to talk about Quad. You know something? I've watched Married to Medicine from the first season, and there were some other seasons where I just kind of fell off of it, watching it regularly. I admittedly really did like it when Mariah was a part of the show, even though I felt like her mom was ridiculous and and Mariah could be over the top, but I felt like it was good drama for television. I don't understand how some people feel that Mariah is any messier than Dr. Heavenly. It's just that Dr. Heavenly is a doctor and Mariah was married to one. So I guess that gives Dr. Heavenly somewhat of a pass because she's seen as a professional businesswoman over Mariah, who is a mother and a wife to a doctor. I don't know. I digress. Not that I have a dislike for Dr. Heavenly because she makes me laugh and she says some things sometimes that I agree with, and she says some things sometimes where I'm just like, girl, did you really just say that? But it's Dr. Heavenly, okay? And she does stuff like that. Well, Toya was not one of my favorites. And to be honest, there were some times where I just was like, I am not seeing it for Toya. But this most recent season of Married to Medicine, the way Toya has been treated, and I think I started to see the cracks in Toya's frame and how she was feeling about how people were treating her and things that people would say to her, because she came across in the beginning as having this really rough, tough exterior, and nobody's going to break me, no one's going to crack me, you can't hurt me, I'm good where I'm at, I'm living a happy life, happy wife, happy life, so it's all good over here, no matter what you say, I am who I am, and you're not going to change this over here. And I'm not saying I agree with everything that Toya says and does. You can like someone and not agree with everything that they say or do. And these cracks that I started to see, I want to say I started seeing the cracks in Toya's frame last season. Because last season, Dr. Heavenly, even though she's admittedly, came out and said that she thinks Toya is dumb. She said it. And she's, come hard at Toya at certain times, and at times, I used to be here for it because I really didn't care for Toya in the beginning, but when I started to see the cracks in Toya's foundation and frame was last season, because Dr. Heavenly was really coming hard for Toya, and I'm not saying that everything that Toya said was justified or even accurate or right, but Dr. Heavenly making Toya feel insignificant and not important, I feel was something that it hurt Toya's feelings, and she actually said it to Dr. Jackie in the last season. There was a conversation that was had between Toya and Dr. Jackie, and Toya, she just pretty much, she was holding back tears. Actually, she may have shed a couple. I don't remember or recall exactly if she literally shed tears, so don't quote me on that, but I know she definitely was to the point of tears when she was speaking to Dr. Jackie about how Dr. Heavenly speaks to her and treats her, and she actually just came out and said, I don't like how she treats me, like it hurts my feelings. And to have Toya sharing this human moment, it made me want to approach her a little bit differently. And I know a lot of people come for Toya, and it seems like every season, or almost every other season, or maybe it's every season minus one or two, they are moving into another house. That's become a big joke. It really has. But who am I to judge when it comes to Dr. Eugene and Toya and how they handle their finances? It really, at the end of it all, has nothing to do with us. And they're not living out on the street. Shit, they're living in a much better home, even if they're renting it, than a lot of other people are. I know my house isn't that big. Not saying the size of a house makes a house better, but it's definitely a lot more expensive. I will say that. And I guess they're continuing to pay their bills because they have not been evicted. So I would say, even though a lot of people give her a lot of flack for moving a lot and they question the lifestyle and the living because Eugene is the only one that's technically working, although she does get a paycheck now because she is a cast member, meaning an employee or maybe independent contractor of the Married to Medicine franchise on Bravo. She's getting somewhat of a check, so people can't say she's broke and she's not making any money. But how they choose to handle their finances and how they live and how they operate, it's really up to them. So it really has nothing to do with us. So we can judge if we want to, but their children seem to be happy. Their children, like the little birthday party that she threw for her son this most recent season was really cute. Like they had like a sit down dinner and it was really nice. It was fun. I liked it. It was really nice. And it's just made Toya seem a bit more likable to me. But Quad, on the other hand, in the beginning, she was one of my favorites. And then she just started getting on my nerves because she's extremely overly dramatic, just full of drama. And then I didn't like how she made these accusations against Mariah, accusing her of doing the Coca-Cola, if you know what I mean. Sniffling some Coca-Cola. And then just other things that she said, just unproven things. But when things come out about her possibly having an affair with Mariah's sister's husband, she was adamant that that was not true. But hey, it was never disproven or unproven. Okay. And now this season, the rumor is that she slept with the contractor or maybe a few contractors or a carpenter or whatever. I don't know. But somebody that has something to do with the construction / rehab of this property that she purchased as a single woman doing God knows what for a living, because she's on Married to Medicine. The last couple of seasons she has not been an official cast member, and now she is in the credits, so she's making I guess a little bit more money now. But prior to that, it's like, even now, how are you able to do that? And a lot of the women question it. Not all of them come out and say it out loud. Now Dr. Simone has questioned it. Okay. And I like that because it is a good question. It's similar to Sheree, where people just wonder, how could you afford this chateau when you haven't been consistent on the Real Housewives of Atlanta and you don't really have a legitimate business that is thriving and making revenue? So how are you able to pay for such a huge monstrosity, especially when it's been rumored that the news in town is that she doesn't pay the people that she hires to do a lot of stuff for her? So it is a legitimate question. But I'm just here to say, when it comes to Quad being on Married to Medicine, we know that the Real Housewives franchise, it's a joke when it comes to these women being housewives, let alone even being wives, because a lot of them are not even married, right? But it is what it is at this point, and we've come to accept it and we deal with it. But Married to Medicine has been one of those shows where we know that the people who are on this show are actually married, okay? So we've got Dr. Jackie and her husband, Dr. Simone and her husband, Dr. Heavenly and her husband. They are both doctors. Dr. Heavenly's husband is a doctor, okay? We've got Dr. Eugene and Toya. We've got Dr. whatever his name is, and sorry, I don't remember his name, and Anila's husband is a doctor. And then you've got Dr. Contessa and her husband, Scott. They're both doctors. So Dr. Scott and Dr. Contessa. And then now they're not official cast members, but they have been on throughout the season. So I'm assuming maybe next season they will be official. You've got the newbies, the woman, the attorney, and then her husband. So Quad, I don't mind her being a friend if she's not going to be getting so much camera time and just being so toxic and hostile where it puts so much focus and attention on her. She's not married to medicine. She got on the show being married to medicine. And from what I've heard, her now ex-husband is engaged to someone else. Why did they dismiss him and keep her on the show? I mean, he's the doctor. She's not married to medicine anymore. Quad needs to go. I am over her. She was just on this last season stirring up drama and gossip. She hates Toya. She's never seen it for Toya from the very first season, okay? They have tolerated each other. They have had their ups and they've had their downs, but I believe at this point that they are just completely done with each other. And Quad is just so freaking super sensitive, okay? She did not like the fact that Toya called her home an apartment before she bought her house. And now she's bragging on her mansion. Where now, on this most recent episode at the end, and it was funny how the producers and the editors did this. I wouldn't even say the producers, but the editors. Quad is going off about Toya to the other ladies. Okay? And she's bragging on the fact that she's a single woman who bought a mansion on her own, and how Toya is just jealous of her, and she's with a man and they're having to move all the time, and I did this without a man, and blah 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 blah. Okay, but they played clips and bits and pieces of Quad just going off, and nobody's even interjecting. They're all just kind of standing there like a deer in headlights, just watching her go off continuously about Toya. And the editors did this time ellipse, and I guessed at one point when they did a few of the ellipses, I said, oh my god, are they going to like show a timestamp of like 30 minutes later? I screamed out loud laughing when they showed 1 hour later. I don't know if that's true now. The editors could have been being messy and acting as if she was actually speaking, going off on Toya for an hour without having Toya in the room, by the way. And Toya was just really unbothered, because when Toya and Quad got into it, and Toya just said, you know, Quad, you've always been jealous of me, like you're always doing this, and Quad had to get up and act as if she was about to pounce on Toya or do something, and we all know she wasn't going to do anything. Quad strikes me as the type that will get crunk in terms of her speaking and acting as if she's about to lunge, but knowing that there's someone nearby her that is going to hold her back, and she's acting as if she needs someone to hold her back when really they don't, because she has no intentions on jumping and pouncing on anyone. I do not believe that at all. I'm not saying that Quad doesn't have hands, but I'm just saying I don't believe that that's her. I just don't believe that's who she is. I just believe she's a lot of mouth. Bark, 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 bark. And Quad being on Married to Medicine after this season, I'm just really not here for it. I'm over her. I was rolling my eyes when she was having the holiday party, and she's just giving this soliloquy up on her balcony, speaking down to the people below her and beneath her, which is what she likes. She likes to feel like she's above others and people are beneath her. So it really was a great analogy of how they played that out. She's speaking to them from above them on this balcony about how she did this on her own and people didn't think it was possible. Like, girl, who cares? You bought a freaking house that people, label as a mansion, and you are not married to anyone. Cool beans. You got it. You got in. From what I heard, anybody can buy a house down there somewhere in Atlanta. So that's really not that huge of a deal. Brag to us about you going through medical school and getting your licenses and getting your residencies or whatever, and starting your own practice or something like that. Like, brag about something like that if you're going to brag. I'm not here for any bragging, but I'm just saying, people bragging about buying a house and people didn't think that you could do it. Who freaking cares? If you got the money and you got the credit, or you know some people who can hook you up, then you can do it. So that really is not a huge accomplishment. And it's a sad thing to see, especially in the African American community, when we have to see that as the stance of, I made it and no one thought that I could do it, but I actually bought a big house. And yeah, you bought a big house, way bigger than what you need because you're single. And yeah, you may be helping to take care of your nephew for a portion of the time, and you have your mother living there with you. Who knows if that's really officially her living there, or she's just staying there for a period of time and still has her own home. I don't know. It's none of our business, but these are the things that they shared while she was on the show. Big freaking deal. But Quad, being on the show, and in my opinion, the nephew is extremely cute, and it's such a sad story of him losing his father. Absolutely. But in my opinion, I feel that she's using it for a storyline. Because we know when it comes to these shows, you have to have that storyline. And I'm just over it. I'm over Quad and the accusations and allegations saying that Toya's sleeping around and talking about how miserable she is in her marriage and all of the different things that she said about Toya's relationship. And granted, Toya, she doesn't speak very well, and sometimes some things comes out of her mouth that she should not have said. And she may have done some things that she shouldn't have done. But I do believe that Toya is super sensitive, and the cracks in the foundation are showing way more now because of you're human, and there's only so much anyone can take. And I do believe that a lot of things have been said about her in the social media streams, and definitely on the show, in conversations between other people about her, that it hurt her feelings. And she's just a human being. I've been tough on Toya in times past as well. I'm not saying I would never call her out on things if I felt like she was wrong in the situation, because I have a soft spot for her now. But I will say that the vitriol that Quad has towards Toya, I just don't feel is warranted, because Quad is holding on to the fact that Toya called her previous place, which was a nice place, by the way. I think it was either like 3 or 4 levels, a townhouse that was beautiful. Toya called it an apartment. So she feels disrespected. Girl, who cares? Quad is so freaking petty. I just don't believe she needs to be on the show anymore. This bone collector thing of going around and talking to the other ladies about what this one said and about what that one said, and then the couples having a couples retreat and Toya being there. How awkward. I would never want to be a third wheel on a bicycle. I would never want to be a fifth wheel on a car. I would never want to be the extra spare tire on any vehicle. And in this situation with these couples going to Blue Ridge for a couples retreat and Quad being there, it was so awkward and so inappropriate. And I think that's one of the other things too as to why Quad is pissed off at Toya. When Toya brought it up during the time Quad was going through the divorce, and they made mention of couples trips, and Toya, she was honest, and I actually agreed with her. She was like, I don't think Quad should go with us on couples trips. She didn't say, I don't think Quad shouldn't be on the show anymore. Actually, Quad was never, by Toya, someone that she felt like shouldn't be on the show anymore. She just said, I don't believe that Quad should be going with us on couples trips. Just like her ex-husband, she didn't feel that he should be going with them on couples trips. So it's like, if we're not going to bring both of them and one sleep in one room and the other sleep in the other room, and we have them all here because the guys were friends with Dr. Greg, her ex-husband, why does he get exiled for the sake of Quad? I just don't get that. Like, is Quad sleeping with one of the producers too? I'm asking a question. I'm not saying it's happening. I'm just wanting to know, what is the deal as to why this woman is still on the show? It just doesn't make any sense. And I'm just not really here for her being on the show anymore, especially after this last season, because with her spreading the rumors about Toya sleeping around, with her trying to make Anila feel like this victim that everyone's talking about and saying that they think you set up the robbery on your home, and I think maybe Toya had something to do with it. I'm willing to take a polygraph test to prove that I didn't have anything to do with it. So if Toya didn't have anything to do with it, then she should take one too, and we'll see who's really lying. And it's just ridiculous. Quad, you're too invested in what all of these other couples have going on when you really should just be trying to find some business of your own and finding a man of your own, and maybe someone in the medical field, so you can legitimately be on the show if they choose to keep you. But in my opinion, I just feel that Quad needs to go, hey, bring Dr. Greg back and his fiance. Like, didn't the new couple, they just got married while they were on the show? Let's have that with Dr. Greg and let's see. You know, I know a lot of people made fun of Dr. Greg's voice and that little clip that they would always play when she, meaning Quad, and Dr. Greg were still married, and they got into an argument, and Dr. Greg left the house and sped off in his little mini Cooper. And they made it sound like this car was like a Corvette speeding off. Like, it's like funny to me, but I'm just really over Quad being on the show anymore. I'm just over it. So you guys let me know your thoughts about this in the comment section. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing to the channel. Guys, until the next time, this is Beth, and I'm just being beautifully honest.